You mentioned a moment ago, a little while ago, about Willow Creek, and you actually served at Willow Creek, and you love that church. And while they're not dressed like you at Willow Creek, there are people there that are living out more and more a lifestyle of concern for the poor and the oppressed. The pastor of that church, Bill Hybels, has said that on one occasion you spoke there to a youth group and you did something about shoes that he said had all kinds of wonderful ripples through the life of that church, and they're still talking about the impact of that evening. Could you tell me about that?
Well, the history of that was that I spent some time working at Willow Creek, and one of the things that I learned in my year there was that the tragedy in our suburban church is not that rich folks don't care about poor folks, but that rich folks don't know poor folks. And if we can kind of mesh those worlds together. First of all, because I went to Willow Creek to work a week after I'd been in Calcutta, India for an entire summer, you know, so.
With Mother Teresa.
So it was a cultural collision. And so what I did when I spoke at Willow was I told the story of Mother Teresa and her feet. Because a lot of times people say, oh, you met Mother Teresa. What do you remember about her, you know?
And what do you remember about her feet?
Her feet were tragically deformed, and I never was going to ask her, though, you know, what's wrong with your feet here? But one of the nuns came up one day and she said, have you seen her feet? And we said, yeah, you know, I wondered if she had caught leprosy. And she said, no, her feet are deformed because we get just enough donated shoes for everyone. And so Mother Teresa goes through the pile of donations and she gets the worst pair of shoes. And after years and years of doing that, years and years of wearing the worst pair of shoes, it's deformed her feet. And the thought of what would it look like if we took the command to love our neighbor as ourselves, or to honor the needs of others above our own, if we really lived that and believed it, could it, you know, deform our feet? Could it change the way that we live? And they had asked me at Willow, they said, we want to do a practical invitation. Should we make peanut butter and jelly? I'm like, well, you know, I think homeless folks I know get plenty of peanut butter and jelly, but what they really need is shoes, because they get, you know, worn out first. The first thing, their feet are their transportation, so they really need socks and shoes. And I said, so don't tell anybody so that they'll wear their best shoes, you know. But what we'll do is we'll give an invitation for folks to donate their shoes and to take them down and get to know someone who's homeless and to give their shoes away. Yeah, so we did that. We gave the invitation to give your shoes away.
How many kids were in the audience?
Oh, it's Willow, you know, hundreds and hundreds, a few thousand probably. And so they take all their shoes. There's these piles of shoes.
So what do the kids do? Come down the aisle with their shoes?
Yeah, went out barefoot. So everybody, they're walking out to their car.
So you give the invitation. These kids come down the aisle, take off their shoes, leave them at the altar.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so there's these huge pile of shoes, and then the next day they take them downtown and they start giving them out to folks. And this is the funny thing, is one of my friends that lives in Lawndale neighborhood in Chicago, a poor neighborhood, they said, so we're walking through our neighborhood and there's these white kids from the suburbs that are giving out shoes on the street corner. And we said, what are you doing? And they told them the whole story of how, you know, I'd been out there and they gave their shoes away.
But tell about the impact when these kids leave the church without their shoes.
Yeah.
What happens then?
So the folks started asking, you know, what's going on?
Your mother and father comes, you know, where are your shoes?
Yeah.
You know, well, I left them at the altar.
Yeah, and so I think it began to ripple out of that, you know, and I think when I look at Jesus, he's always doing weird stuff like that, you know, to kind of shake things up a little, pulling a coin out of a fish's mouth, or, you know, turning, you know, yeah. So that was a sort of a little prank.
Guerrilla charity, that's what that is. Guerrilla charity.
There was one guy that came up afterwards and he's like, man, I just got me a brand new pair of alligator cowboy boots. It was $600, and now there's some homeless guy walking through Chicago.
Some homeless guy walking with these $600 boots in the city. I mean, that's beautiful.